Ik denk dat ik de verkeerde tijd.
Welcome, everybody. Sorry. We are waiting for one more person, trying to contact him, but he is coming very shortly. I just spoke to him on the phone, giving him a few minutes, but we are going to get started with, again, guys, the Vertical Weekly EMA, the place where we give you guys the latest updates of what's happening behind the scene at Vertical, and the place where you guys can ask questions directly to the team live here at the Spaces, and where we are going to do our utmost best to answer these questions in as much details as we can. And today, guys, we have a super important EMA planned for you guys. Unfortunately, we are not going to do a technical EMA. We're going to move that to next week because actually we have something even more important to discuss this week. So important that we brought our COO on board to give you guys some more insights in the one of the biggest updates that we've did for our token economy, and that is the version 2 of our token utilities that is completely compliant, that is going to track the growth of our platform, that is going to add intrinsic value to our utility token, that is going to benefit our community in so many ways. And well, I'm not going to spoil too much details. I'm going to give the word to Freezone. Afterwards, we're going to have Tony on board as well, a professional in the space of tokenomics that helped us formalize to also prototype and also simulate the effects of our new utilities to ensure that they are actually beneficial. But without further ado, guys, I'm going to give the word to our CEO, Freezo, because he's been working hard on this, and he's going to explain you exactly why this is so impactful for everyone in our community.
Thank you, Mark, and it's great to be back at the AMA. It's been a while, to be honest. First of all, also thank you, massive thank you to our listeners, our day one believers. I'm really looking forward to have Tony in this call. He is truly a token mechanic wizard. We've been working very hard with him. He's designed over 50 tokenomics for different tokens. He's had his own token, and he's been our friend advisor in this project. But he has helped us draft basically the best tokenomic we could possibly think of for Verde AI. I want to jump in with you. I think yesterday you've already seen a 30-second teaser about our new tokenomics. Consider that the movie trailer. We can maybe do it one more time here. I'm not sure if we can. But this AMA basically is the behind the scenes director's cut. It's going to be packed. It's going to be bullish. And if we have done our job correctly, you will walk away thinking, okay, I really do love vertical AI. So maybe Hidde, do you want to kick it off with one more time the 30-second video to introduce the tokenomics? And then afterwards, we'll dive into a couple of steps and jump in more deeply.
Unlocking the power behind our token. Get a 15% discount when you buy platform credits with Verde AI. Stake Verde AI and watch credits stream into your account at a fixed APY. Lock tokens to climb loyalty tiers in our affiliate program and earn up to 20% of referred users' revenue. We will burn 10% of the net profit earned through Verde AI on a quarterly basis. The growth of Vertical will fuel the growth of our token economy. Power your creativity. Start using Verde AI.
Awesome. So, new tokenomics. You might ask, why did we change our tokenomics in the first place, right? Well, firstly, we want to stay ahead of the curve. The regulations, they shift. We see copycats pop up, and innovation keeps us leading and not reacting to the market. And secondly, we want to reward the early believers. Day one holders should not carry the risk without sharing the upside. And thirdly, we want to tie the token to real usage and stakeholders. Like we always say that hype spikes, they fade, but true utility can compound the network altogether. So in plain English, as vertical AI grows, two things should happen automatically. First of all, demand for Verde AI should rise and the tradable supply should shrink. And those two elements are really important to keep in mind. It's super easy to understand, but in general, it pushes value back to every holder of the Verde AI token. And this all sounds pretty ambitious, right? But give me 5 minutes and a few clear steps, and I think you'll see why we are so confident that this is extremely valuable for us. And then we'll obviously open the floor and let, well, hopefully Tony verify the mathematics, but also have some time for you guys to comment, to ask any questions. So please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure to answer them after this short introduction. So in the video, we already saw it. There's a first tokenomic whereby basically pay with Verde AI and save 15%. I think it's really good and important to first distinguish who are the actual users of our platform and why would they even need the vertical AI token, right? So let's do a very quick breakdown. First of all, we have our regular stream users. These are people that want to get access to premium AI models in a very convenient and consumer-friendly way, but ideally for the cheapest price possible, right? They want to not juggle with multiple subscriptions and accounts. They want to have one account and then ideally get a discount on the AI usage that they have and have tools to basically compound and earn more platform credits or compute credits over time. Then secondly, there's our creator, right? These people will actually create new models in our studio, and these are compute heavy users. So for them, we've also designed a tokenomics that help them actually stake their Verde AI in order to gain compute, right? And thirdly, there's our token holder. Those might not be necessarily interested in using our vertical platform, but obviously we need to make sure that the whole vertical ecosystem and our token holder benefit from platform growth. So that first tokenomic, whereby people that basically pay with Verde AI save an instant 15%, is super simple. Imagine you're ready to train a new AI model in the vertical studio, and the checkout will show, for example, $100. This is obviously a random number. So now you toggle the pay with Verde AI button, and the price instantly drops to $85. It's a 15% off on the spot. we'll basically calculate the amount of Verdi that you need to pay for that subscription through the live Oracle price, and we convert the USD price to the live Verdi price. It's pay, it's confirmed, and it's done. It's easy money. It's an easy win. There's actually a small sneak peek that I can already give during this call, because not everyone wants to fuss with wallets or private keys. We obviously have our traditional Web2 user that we're also focusing on, and they shouldn't have to, right? So actually what we're working on for the future is that people can pay in USD, and we're actually building an auto convert checkout. This basically means that people see a $100 invoice, they pay exactly the $85, right? The 15% discount that they will get by paying with VerdiI. But behind the curtain, our on-ramp partner will instantly use that money to buy the equivalent amount of VerdiI on the open market. It settles the bill on chain and sends you a receipt. So this will basically feel like a Web2 purchase. No extra steps, no new apps, no wallets, no scary jargon, no code. To the network, it's a real token buy event that fuels both the demand and obviously the quarterly burns that we're doing. In other words, basically every swipe of a traditional card quietly strengthens the VerdiI economy, even for users who can't basically distinguish a blockchain from a block of cheese or anything in that matter. So I think that is really how we can turn mainstream adoption into token momentum, which I think is awesome. Second, obviously staking for platform credits, right? So this is now our second tokenomic. Long-term believers or big consumers can basically lock their tokens in our staking contracts. And instead of printing more VerdiI tokens, which would hurt the price and create obviously inflation for token holders, we don't pay back in VerdiI tokens. We pay back in platform credits that are USD pegged, non-transferable, and they are technically compute credits without expiry. So on top of that, the locked tokens itself, they will stay intact and they're not consumed in any form or way. So basically people that stake tokens, they have a growing AI budget that allows them to host, to fine tune, or to stream models for free if staked enough tokens. I think a good analogy that I heard today in the office, it's the same as investing $1,000 in, for example, solar panels, right? You don't actually consume the solar panels, but every month you get free electricity. And this is basically how this will work for foreseeable compute bills. You stake your VerdiI token and your bill will technically be covered by the APY that you will earn on your staked tokens in compute credits. So I think this is really, really bullish for people that know they have a big compute bill coming up, that have fine-tuned the model and want to keep it hosting. They basically stake an amount of VerdiI and get free credits in return. It's great. There's no inflation, and it basically drives more platform usage, which is good for everyone. The third tokenomic is basically it's not a side hustle, but it's a way for affiliates and for influencers or anyone else interested to lock their tokens, to refer their friends or any affiliate, and basically get extra money. So the affiliate loyalty program, for that we have designed various tiers. Those tiers depend on the amount of tokens that you lock up. So it ranges from a minimum of 2,000 tokens to lock up, 2,000 VerdiI tokens to lock up, to 30,000 VerdiI tokens to lock up. And the amount of revenue that you will share from your referred users also goes up with the amount of tokens that you've locked up. So, for example, for 2,000 tokens locked, you will gain 5% rev share. And for 30,000 tokens locked up, you will gain 20% rev share. But that basically means, right? So let's say an average user would lock up 10,000 tokens. If you do the basic mathematics, right? If you bring in 200 users that will pay $20 per month for the 2 years, as an affiliate, you will earn $10,000, right? I'm talking about 200 users that will pay for 2 years, $20 will earn you $10,000, right? This is great for us as a platform because we acquire new users through affiliates. But it's also great for the affiliate themselves. And there could be a true business model for large influencers to bring in as many users as they can, which will again fuel token demand, fuel the token economy. And we're happy to share the revenue with those affiliate influencers or anyone else that wants to lock up and refer their friends, their family, whoever. So this is cool. Basically, there is a 2-year payout window. So like I mentioned, each user you bring in today keeps earning for 24 months. The locked tokens, they always stay yours. So your locked tokens, your lock Forte is not spent in any way. They simply unlock a tier status while the referral income comes in either USDC or Verde. And basically, yeah, like I mentioned, this has a flywheel effect. So more users means higher platform revenue, means larger quarterly burns, which basically means stronger token economics for anyone that holds. This could lift the underlying value of the token you locked in the first place. And then the burn. I think that's the final mechanic that we want to discuss. Basically, every quarter we will burn a share of the total net profits that we gained on payments made for services in Verde. This sounds a bit difficult, but every user that pays in Verde, 10% of that money that is earned, actually the profits that are earned, they will actually be burned on a quarterly basis. We will do this up to 25 million tokens, which is 25% of our Genesis supply, or for 5 years. So whichever basically happens first, 25 million tokens or 5 years has gone. That is basically hard-coded scarcity directly linked to business performance, and it's not some arbitrary schedule. So basically putting it all together, these effects pay with vertical AI to get 15% discount, staking and affiliate locks to basically earn compute credits or earn just hard cash for bringing in new users, and the quarterly profits burn. Basically, that means cut the supply and adding to basically cutting part of the supply and adding a small deflationary effect to the whole token economy. So I think these things in concert are really cool. I see that Tony, our token mechanic wizard, has actually joined here. Let me quickly introduce him for anyone that's listening. Tony has become a true friend of our project. He has got a lot of experience under his belt, both as a founder of a token, but also as an advisor to other projects in terms of tokenomics. He runs his own company called tokenomics.net. And he's honestly been great in designing those. And we just wanted to bring him in here to talk a little bit about what we've built, and maybe to give your take on how the economy looks like right now.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, my friend. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone, and thanks for your time and your attention. So, first thing I want to touch on. So, I heard a lot, but one thing I want to touch on that really separates Vertical when you look at most projects that are out there, look at the amount of supply that's circulating now. Okay, got about 75% circulating. Now, what I want you to do is look at most of the projects that are launching and got a lot of VCs in there, all these really heavy amounts of like tokens that will be released later, high FDVs, excessive inflation. Well, that's all value that's actually dumped on people later on. And that's not the case here. In fact, this project has probably the lowest inflation of a lot of projects I've worked on. And this is one of the most important pieces that I see is it's a very fair distribution model. Like you're lucky to get into a project at this state. And the other thing I want to say too is when you look at how the project started, literally from nothing, the team kind of almost did like a fair launch. They put the liquidity together, they launched it, it's grown from here. That's also, in my opinion, a very incredible story that talks about like the team's professionalism, their ability to grow this. And that's something I really wanted to touch on because utilities aside, these are the types of things that really matter, right? If you have a really high FEV and you have a lot of inflation, that's all value dumped on you later on. That's the team selling on you. That's the investors selling on you. That's rewards that are distributed selling on you. That's not actually taking place here. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. And that's what I really like about the economy and the way that it's designed. And I've worked on, I just looked the other day, I have over about 80 customers in the past 3 years that I've worked on projects for. And I want to say that this is probably the fairest distribution model out of all of them, but that's because of how the project started. And most just don't start this way. And that's something I really wanted to touch on. And then when you think about like the early stages, I just saw you guys have 20,000 users on the platform. Congratulations with that. I mean, that's Thanks, real people that will be using the token, right? So it's really cool to see the utility. But the other thing I wanted to highlight as well is what I heard on the buy mechanic. If you swipe your credit card, that's liquidity that's injected into the chart. Now, I can't emphasize enough why this is valuable, because when you look at a lot of projects, look at their liquidity pools. You'll find that a lot of times there's hardly anything there, right? And when you look at that, that's very sloppy, right? So the charts, for example, if you got a $20 million FDV that has only 100 grand in it, if someone sells $50,000, they're going to take that down to right around a $10 million FDV. You got cut in half off of $50,000 of selling pressure, right? And so these are the things that fundamentally a lot of projects don't really get right. And in this case, you have the opposite of that, right? As it scales, even as people use vertical, that's great. Even as they swipe their credit card, that's also great, right? You have the ability to lock and to get compute power that, again, you'd want to use anyway in all likelihood. That's amazing. Or to get affiliate commissions to monetize off your own efforts. That's phenomenal. And the last thing I would say, too, is what really surprised me about the team is the last part was really, the burn mechanic that they put in place as well. And I heard a lot about the team throughout our work about fairness to the community, making sure you're not, inflating too much. That again goes back to what I said earlier, is you have 75% distribution out there right now circulating. And if you think about what they just said, they're not planning on selling on you guys. That's not actually the whole business model, right? That actually is counter to that, right? And so this is the stuff that, to me, I wanted to highlight fundamentally, that not only talks about the professionalism and the ethics of the team, but what you actually have designed and why I believe it's really exciting. So I'll shut up now and I'll let you continue, my friend.
No, like it's interesting because the point you touch on, right, is the same consideration that we had over the staking mechanism, right? So if you stake and you basically give tokens in reward, which many projects do, technically what you're doing is creating inflation. And that's why we chose to really tie it to our platform usage by staking for platform credits, right? And those are paid from our pockets. Which because we're not doing anything else with those tokens. We just basically want to, we want to make sure that the locked supply, right, increases. This is good for the token economy, good for the holders. It takes out liquidity out of the market that can potentially basically sell. And in return, right, because it is good for everyone, we will give you compute credits, not more tokens. And I think like those small considerations about, not like thinking about your token holder and like I started all the way at the beginning with this comment, whereby basically we want to reward also the early believers, right, and the day one holders, and they shouldn't carry the risk of starting and being early without sharing the upside, correct? And that's why we've also designed these tokenomics just in order for everyone to benefit in this ecosystem. So I think that's really interesting, and thank you so much for your kind words, Tony. Like it's been a pleasure to work with you, and any project that's listening in that's looking for a revamp of tokenomics, like I advise you highly to speak with Tony. But Tony, maybe just a question, right? So in terms of utility tokens that you see around, like there's so many like utilities being launched, and like it's hard to find true utilities tied to platform users, correct? That also increase like overall economy value when platform usage growth. And I think that's what utility was originally built for, was that this economy needs to keep itself in balance, right? Whereby more demand for the platform should create more value for the token holders, and that stuff has vanished quite a bit. Like how do you look at this from our token perspective, and how do you see this in the market?
Well, what I see in the market a lot is like I mentioned, the high FTV, when you're starting up that high, how do you get distribution? Well, a lot of projects, what they'll do is they'll use their tokens as incentives. And as you noted,
Right.
that is an inflationary pressure, right? But that's also future selling pressure. It's also a lack of buying pressure, right? Because if people get tokens, why would they want to buy them then? They already have them, right? And so,
Right.
and then a lot of times as well, when they give people tokens, it's not the people who actually want to use them, right? This is another flaw. Or the only way they want to use them is when they put them in the liquidity pool when they're selling, right? As
Yeah.
I mentioned, that's kind of like the opposite of what we want to have. And so what I really like about this is, again, you're starting off at a point where you have that high circulating amount, 75%, right? And anyone who wants to use the token then has to buy it off of the decentralized exchange if they don't have it, right? And that to
Right.
me is like really the core starting point that makes this a differentiator. When you look at a lot of utility, I made a post about this yesterday on LinkedIn. It's like these projects, they start off, they build a crappy MVP. Now no one wants to use it. So what do you do next? You give away a whole bunch of tokens so people have an incentive to use the product, right? Then you start getting some fake volume, you start getting fake community activity, and it looks good. Everything's looking great, right? You see this with Cato, these types of projects, right? It's looking good. And then now the project is start to come live. Now you distribute the airdrop. Now you have crickets, right? Because everyone was participating to get the free money. They weren't participating to use the actual product. And so again,
Right.
as a project, how do you know what your real numbers are? You don't know what your real numbers are. How do you know who your real users are? You're not marketing to them. And so the way I see a lot of projects just marketing incorrectly is they're going out and marketing to everyone. And what I know about marketing is if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
This project is not a fit for every single type of user, and that's perfectly fine because there's a big enough market for it, especially in AI as fast as that is exploding, right? Like Web3 gaming, that individual might be a stakeholder where they buy and hold because they believe in it, but at its core, when I think about the utilities, that's what I really love about how this has been designed and how it's started up. Because so many projects don't start up in this manner, and as such, now they're in such an unsustainable state that their valuations are way up here. All the investors are starting to get their unlocks. And then once that starts to happen, like for example, I'll use Arbitrum as a great example. That to me was a phenomenal project that, in my opinion, is doing pretty well. Now the investors unfortunately selling the heck out of that project and really causing a lot of pressure on that. Well, what's doing that is all, for example, the amount of tokens that's being emitted that the investors can sell, right? And that's when I was looking, I think 3-4 months ago, it was like $90 million a month in selling pressure, right? So when you think about like a project and when you think about inflation, like we talk about even in the US here, like inflation is like 3% a year, 4% a year. When you look at most projects, how they decide, it's like, yeah, if you're 300% a year, you're pretty good. I mean, you're pretty good.
Exactly.
It won't work. It very few survive that, right? So at its core, the utilities are amazing, but it's really the way the project has started up that I believe is probably one of the most things that aren't even talked about that much. That makes me most excited, right? Because that's long term. That's long term value.
Listen, the utilities are designed for products that are still in MVP, correct? Or like products that are not even in MVP. So it's very hard to understand who your user is, right? And I think also that's what I liked about the conversation that we had together is like we really try to design these tokenomics around the use cases that we see on our platform, right? And that's why we waited also a little bit until we saw proper traction, until we have a proper user base, so we can talk to them and ask them what would you need and what would you like to see in a token utility for you, right? And I think this is the way, if you look at our tokenomics, like all of the 4 tokenomics that we designed are specifically designed to cater to a certain user group, but holistically, they should bring the whole economy up together, right? And
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm very curious I see there's a bunch of questions coming into the chat.
One more thing. I just want to say one more thing.
Go for it, Tony.
Okay, so one thing that you didn't touch on that people wouldn't know unless you're working with us is Friezo's like a magician in spreadsheets and stuff. I don't know how this guy's like, he's plugged in, he's got an AI in his brain, right? But the whole thing was it's like amazing. Like stuff just appears. But what we paid a lot of attention to was the profitability, where if you're getting tokens, do you actually have to sell those at that point in time? How's that profitability look like? And this is another piece when it comes to utility, is a lot of projects are taking all their revenue in tokens. Well, think about this. If you get your tokens as what you call revenue, the only way you get dollars is selling those, right? That's the only way you can get dollars. So your revenue is actually selling pressure if you actually realize all of it, right? But in this case, the revenues are also split into fiat, right? Which at its core also disconnects a lot of the potential selling pressure as well. And that's something that, again, it goes to the profitability of the model and all the work that was done there. That was one of our biggest questions, was if we do this, will it destroy the business or will it still be a great business model? And that is something that is also important, because if it destroys the business, yet the token's great, then there is no token. There's nothing to use it on. Right?
In the end, we need to make sure that we're a profitable company, right? Because that will sustain us over the years, and that in the end brings the most benefit to the user and the utility. And indeed, like a lot of the things that we've been looking at was how does this token economy trickle down into our business model, right? And we wanted to make sure that it doesn't hurt us in the long term, but also like we wanted to make sure that we share the benefits with the people that believed in us from early on, right? So we didn't want to be hungry and too greedy. And so we try to balance the margins that we gain with basically the benefits that we give back to the community. So that's why we can give those compute credits back to the high users on the creator side. That's why we want to give back the discount to the people that hold Verde AI want to pay there. But thank you, Tony. I really appreciate it. I'm going to jump into some of the questions. Anyone who wants to hit up Tony, I think his links are his X is basically in the announcement here. But Tony, thank you so much for joining us during this call. I think Mark, I'll see you soon, man. We'll speak soon. I think Mark will join us a bit for the questions. I see the first question coming up here is there a limit in buying credits per wallet? No, so there is no limit in buying credits per wallet. Technically, how the credit system will work is something that we'll dive into a little deeper. Actually, tomorrow there will be a big blog about the credit system itself. But no, there is no limit in buying credits per wallet. People can do pay as you go subscription, which basically has no monthly fee, but you can just buy as many credits as you like to just pay for what you need, with a little bit more benefit in terms of price per credit will be the basic subscription, and then there's a pro subscription for the really heavy users. So there's basically, again, catering to all types of use cases: people that are very heavy, people that are just light users, and people that just want to pay as they go. And there's no limitation to any credits in the wallet. Then
Perfect.
this,
Yeah,
is there any?
let me just make sure that we name the person that's asking it as well.
Oh yeah,
So
sure. I'm not sure if I can see those.
no. So we're picking them out of the Telegram. The people are shooting questions there like crazy, and we're shooting them in here so people can see them as well. So
Awesome.
Louis Sevi asked the question: is there any vetting process for models before they are made public? And I guess these are the models from the studio that got created by users. Um, yeah, like
Yeah, good questions. If you want, I can answer this.
yeah.
So yeah, of course. So there's a vetting process, right? So all models that are created, they'll be technically experimental models, right? Until these models are fully vetted and tested out with user groups, it requires some iteration, right? We can't just publish a model to all our users, and if it doesn't work correctly, we will be basically cheating you. So a model that's created in the studio will have first an experimental status, and once it is experimented with and has enough traction, it will basically become a vertical model. So this is the vetting process. Vertical models will be paid for in the stream. The experimental models will be free for all users to use. Does that
Yeah.
answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. And I think a small addition to that as well is that we're going to have a rating system on our platform as well. So other users can give stars or thumbs up to models that work better than other models, just to make sure
Yeah.
that our community is involved in, curating the quality on our platform. So always the best and most quality model will always get the most spotlights. All right. So next
Excellent.
question. NFT lover is asking, do you have any security features that can avoid users in abusing the use of credits? And I assume that maybe this is in regards to staking. But yeah, fire away.
So basically, so we're talking about platform credits, right? So those platform credits, they will only be received after a payment is done, right? So if you are a subscriber, you'll receive monthly credits. If you do a pay as you go, you'll buy a credit pack. So basically, you only receive the credits that you've either earned or bought, and there's not really abusing in those credits, right? Because you're basically spending your own money. So there is not really a security feature that avoids users in abusing. Obviously, our smart contracts that. Sorry? If they abuse the credits, it will be good for the ecosystem as a whole. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for your question.
the more credits, the better.
Is there
All
is
right.
there a limit
So
of users that can join the staking and receive rev shares, or the bigger number of users that stake, the bigger rev shares they receive? So the users can join the staking and receive rev shares. Everyone can join the staking and receive rev shares. That's not an issue. However, in the rev share, there are several tiers, like I mentioned. So basically, if you stake or lock up a small amount of tokens, for example, 2,000 tokens, you will only get 5% of a revenue share. But if you lock a larger amount of tokens, like 30,000 tokens, which is the maximum, you will get 20% rev share. So to a certain extent, there's a maximum amount of tokens that you can lock. So the 20% is fixed as a cap. But for the rest, no, you can earn as much rev share as you can. So bring as many users to the platform as you can, and for the first 2 years of them paying us, you will earn a rev share on those users. I hope that answers the question. Um, what's inspired the decision to introduce these new utilities at this particular time? This is asked by Crypto Guy. So all the way in the beginning, I mentioned briefly that yes, we want to stay ahead of the curve, right? First of all, regulation shift. We see copycats popping up, and innovation keeps us leading, not reacting. I think that is always in the core of vertical AI. We want to innovate and lead and not react to the market. So that's why we come up with new stuff, first of all. Secondly, like I said, we want to reward the early believers. When we designed those tokenomics in the beginning, we did not have a MVP or live product yet. Right now, we much better understand who is using the platform and what for, and what do they need to have a better experience. So after having those conversations, this brought us to indeed the urge to create new utilities. Let's
Oh.
see. I hope that answers the
Um,
question. So yeah, it's and this utility obviously like it also plays into like in general the market increasing. We have much more holders right now. We're obviously looking at listing very soon. Where we have MiCAR compliance that we need to adhere to. So there's been several reasons why we wanted to update these tokenomics. But yeah, the core I've mentioned. I hope that answers the question. Then there is another question. Again, everybody, I love the fact that you're engaging on this. We're here to answer your questions. I see a question from Chelsea asking, will this 15% discount be available indefinitely, or is it part of a limited time promotion? As we see right now, it will be indefinitely. It's not a limited time promotion. If you hold VertAI and want to consume platform credits on the stream, exchange your VertAI for platform credits and get instant 15% off the dollar price.
all right. We'll do one more question. The EMA is gonna take a long. So let's see if there's one more question.
How is the revenue share calculated? Was that a question? I've already touched on this a little bit. So I see Charles is asking in the Telegram chat how the revenue shares are calculated. So it's basically dependent on the amount of tokens you lock up in the first place. When you lock up tokens, depending on the amount of tokens you lock, which is actually all in our blog that we launched yesterday on tokenomics, we will make sure to drop it in the chat very soon. But on that blog, you can see the different tiers from bronze all the way up to diamond, depending on the amount of tokens that you lock in our contracts. So basically, that will decide how much revenue share you will get. Okay.
Perfect. All right. I think this
Link is
was
in the
an
chat.
link is in the chat. Hida just shared it. All right. Well, thank you, Friso, for this insightful and super detailed explanation of our token utility version 2 that is going to set us up for major adoption and also sex listing and a lot of good stuff that the community is going to benefit from in the future. So thank you for jumping in the EMA, and we'll get you in exactly another time when you've again accomplished some major steps for the company, like you always do. Greatly appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So for now, guys, we're gonna round up this EMA. It's been nearly 40 minutes, one of the longer EMAs we've ever done. I think it deserved the time that we spend on it. I think I'd like to thank Tony also for jumping in. Next week, we are going to make
Absolutely.
this into a technical EMA where our CTO is going to do some beta demos of some very cool features that we have cooking for you guys. So thank you for jumping in and joining today. But make sure to join next week as well, as we are preparing for, again, another massive weekly vertical EMA. For now, I wish everyone a great evening, a great day, and thank you again for your support. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.